Hello mathematicians, here is a video on the concept of doubling and halving. Doubling a number is the opposite of having a number or cutting it in half. Cutting a number in half, the opposite of that is doubling it. Let's prove it with a cookie. If I have a cookie and I cut it in half and then I double what's left, we're back to where we started from, showing that they are opposites. Mathematically, when you double a number, you multiply by 2. And when you cut a number in half, you divide by 2. So that shows that they are opposites as well. So let's use the concept of doubling and halving and just think about a few things. This first sentence I want you to focus on says, when one factor doubles, so does the product. So I have the problem 4 times 6. 4 by 6. And the answer is 24. If I were to double one of those numbers, the answer or the product doubles as well. So instead of 4 by 6, now I'm doing 8 by 6. So 4 by 6 was 24. If I double one of the sides and make it 8 by 6, the answer doubles as well. So if we double one of the numbers, the product or the answer doubles as well. Let's look at another one. Now focus on this sentence. When one factor is cut in half, then the product is cut in half as well. So let's look at this concept. So I start with 8 by 6. 8 by 6 is 48. And now I'm saying if I cut one of them in half, so instead of 8 by 6, now we're 8 by 3. And the answer is cut in half. So to recap, the first one says if you double one of the numbers, the answer will be doubled as well. And in the second part, if you cut one of the numbers in half, the answer will be cut in half. What if you do both? When one factor doubles and the other one is cut in half, remember doubling and cutting in half are opposites. Remember when we cut that cookie in half and then we doubled it, we were back to where we started. So think of this, when one factor doubles but the other one's cut in half, the product doesn't change, the product stays the same. So let's look at that. So we're starting with 8 by 6, and we get 48. What if we cut one of them in half? So the 8 gets cut in half to a 4, and the 6 gets doubled into a 12. The answer stays the same. If you double one of them, but you cut the other one in half, it's like you've done nothing at all. The answer or the product is still the same. And here's one more example of that. We have 4 by 12, which equals 48. If we cut one of the sides in half, so 4 gets cut in half to 2, and 12 gets doubled to 24, the answer stays the same. So if you double one number, the answer gets doubled. Or if you cut one number in half, the answer gets cut in half. And when you do both, you cut one in half but double the other, it's like nothing changes and the product stays the same. All right, let's think a little bit more about doubling and halving, and I want you to see this very cool trick. I want to know what 60 times 15 is. Do you know what 60 times 15 is? Yeah, either do I. Let's use a doubling and halving trick to help us. I am going to cut one number in half and double the other number. And I can figure out the answer by making my numbers easier to work with. So I have two numbers here, 60 and 15, and one of the numbers I'm going to cut in half and one of the numbers I'm going to double. I am not going to cut 15 in half because then I would get 7 and a half, which is weird. But I can cut 60 in half. So I'm going to cut 60 in half and get 30. And if I cut one number in half, I need to double the other number. So I cut 60 in half to get 30. and I doubled the other number to get 30. And nothing has changed. That's the same thing as 60 by 15. And as you can see, I have made 60 by 15, which is not all that easy. I have made it into a much easier problem. Okay? So 60 by 15, do you know what it is? Just solve 30 by 30. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. And guess what 60 by 15 is? It's also 900. If you were to do it on a calculator or in a different method, it's also 900. So double one of the numbers, cut the other number in half just to make it easier. So 60 times 15 is the same thing as 30 times 30, and that's way easier to do. Let's try this one. 150 times 32. I think I'm going to double 150, because if I try to cut it in half, I get 75, and then you can't cut 75 in half. So I think I'm going to cut 32 in half. So I'm going to cut 32 in half and get 16. And if I cut 1 in half, I have to double the other one. Okay, it's getting a little easier. Like, I don't know what 150 times 32 is. I don't know. And 300 times 16 is really not all that easy either. So I'm going to keep going. Cut one of the numbers in half and double the other one. That's way easier, right? 6 times 8 is 48. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. I have not really changed the number at all, but I've certainly made it easier on my eyeballs and easier on my brain. But let's keep going, because you could. What if we kept cutting the number in half and doubling the other number? What if we kept going? Cut one number in half and double the other number. Oh my gosh, let's keep going. Cut one number in half and double the other number. What's 4,800 times 1? 4,800. And that's what they all equal. So try the doubling and halving trick. If you double one number and cut the other number in half, you might be able to make a much easier to work with problem. Okay? The answer is 4,800. This one, not all that easy. This one, not all that easy. But getting to this point made it much easier. Getting to this point was pretty easy if you know 12 times 4. Getting it to this point, pretty easy. But I think my absolute favorite was that I kept going. Super smile. This one was super easy. So again, if you double one number and cut the other number in half, you're not really changing the problem, but it certainly is easier to do. All right, let's try this one. I am not going to cut 25 in half because that would be 12 and a half, which is weird. So I'm going to double this one. And if I double one, I got to cut the other one in half. Okay, I don't think this is very easy to do in my head. And I don't really think this is very easy to do in my head. So I'm going to keep going. Double one of the numbers and cut the other number in half. Well, that's a little bit easier. I like this one. 16 times 1 is 16. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. But we could keep going. Double one of the numbers while cutting the other number in half. That's pretty easy to do. I like this one. 8 times 2 is 16. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. I could keep going if I wanted. If you double one number while cutting the other number in half, you can often get a much easier to work with problem. 4 times 4 is 16. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. And just to be ridiculous, I could keep going. If you double one of the numbers and cut the other number in half, though it looks different, it's really not any different. This one's great as well. And I could keep going if I wanted to. If you double one number and cut the other number in half, this one's super easy. No matter what, you will get the same answer. So again, doubling and halving, all it does is it makes it into an easier problem for you to do in your head. All right, I want you to try this one by pausing the video. I want you to cut this number in half while you double this number. And see if you can get it to a much easier problem, because right now 32 times 25, not all that easy. Okay, did you try it? Let's try it together. If I cut one of the numbers in half and double the other one, this one is still not all that easy, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to cut one number in half and double the other number. Now that is very easy. So I haven't changed the problem at all, except that I've made it much easier to do in my head. Okay? I could keep going if I wanted, but stopping at 8 times 100 is really nice. If I cut one in half and double the other, that's also a nice, easy one to do. And though it looks different on our eyeballs, it's really the same problem. I could do it again, cut in half and double. Just as easy. And I could cut in half and double. And that one is just as simple as that purple one. So cut one number in half, double the other number. It's a super fun trick. You should show your family how you can take a difficult problem and make it easier. And it's not really changing anything, because if you double one but cut the other one in half, it's like you've changed nothing. Okay? All right, kiddos. I hope you enjoyed the doubling and halving video.